Welcome to Bay Rats and Buoys Season 2 with your host, Captain Gaige.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. I'm your host, Captain Gaige. This is episode number 43, Season 2, On the Boat, brought to you in part by Cito Huntington. Are you a member? Visit Cito.com to join today. And the Fisherman Magazine, my favorite subscription to get in the mail. And Clicks Fueling, visit clicksfueling.com. And let's not forget about J&M Seafood, my favorite store in East Northport. Make sure you stop by there. We're going to have some big news for them moving forward into the fall. Can't wait to share that with you guys. And we got to give a big shout out to our Davy Jones Shellfish Company. You guys will see me live out there in the farm, in the Peconic Bay with Captain Jacob. Very excited. Can't wait to do that episode with him. Lots of big things going on. What's up, everybody? We are back for another week, another episode. We are just 9 episodes away from our 1-year anniversary. And we're going to kick off a few things for the anniversary. I'll start by saying we are going to start a Bay Rats and Buoys fishing club. So if you guys are interested and want to jump on board or you want to find out more about it, reach out to me. We will be starting that in 2026. I think we're going to plan it all here in the fall and start it up come the beginning of 2026 to kick off the new season next year. So, holy cow, where do we start? I mean, right now, I talked about it in the past few episodes. This weekend, you got the Hamptons Shootout. So any details you want on that tournament, head over to hamptonsshootout.com. You can get all the details there. The tuna bite, it couldn't be any hotter. Everybody's in on the action. I know a few guys that went out recently that wound up switching up to tile fishing and switched up looking for cobia because they struck out on the tuna. And, you know, it happens. It's fishing. You head offshore and a lot of things come into play, you know, especially talking to Scott here. I mean, some of the guys are just so dialed in. And, using some of the latest and greatest technology definitely helps. And you could see why during some of the tournaments, and we learned this out in Montauk, that there is a no sonar division where there is no sonar on the boat. So that's pretty interesting, you know, how guys can get in on the tuna and find them and do what they got to do to catch them and win the tournaments in that division and not have sonar. And to me, that's pretty cool because that was new to me as far as a no sonar division. You know, me, I'm big on my sonar and my side scan now, only because it's new. It's new to me, and I love it. I don't know what I would do without it. Actually, I do, because I've said that in previous episodes that I'd go out fish against people without any electronics. So I have said that, but it's not like I want to go do it. It's a lot easier with electronics. And recently talking to Captain Tony, or I should say Captain of the Kitchen, Tony here in the marina, about Live View. And Rob was the one that turned us on to that. So always a shout out to Rob and Howie. And he just got back from Montauk. So, you know, the tuna bite's hot. We talk about that. But, you know, a lot of guys also now this time of the year, from July moving into September, you also have the brown sharks and, you know, also known as sandbar sharks. So you have your sandbars that are out there causing havoc for anybody reeling in striped bass and tuna. So, you know, it's a feeding frenzy for them. And it's, you know, they got these striped bass schools surrounded, and you get on the bass and you catch a bass and you bring up half a fish. You're seeing more and more pictures of that on social media. And again, that's why you're seeing it so much more, because social media is much larger scale, just like the drone footage and looking for the sharks. And if somebody gets bit at Jones Beach or at any of the local beaches, 98% of the time it's a test bite from a juvenile shark that just mistaken a swimmer for food and obviously did not eat the person. So let's not get crazy about that. And, the sharks have been here forever. And, the reason I bring that up is because it's more noticeable now because of drones and social media that, you get it instantly. If something happens, you find out about it a lot sooner than waiting for, a news station to pick up that story. And I always go back to watching Jaws. I did it again twice this summer. And, 1 and 2, that's where I kind of, but 1, one of the greatest movies ever made, without a doubt. So the brown sharks, a.k.a. the sandbars, are out there harassing the fish that are being caught. And you guys got to understand, and I'm sure you do, they are the apex predator in the ocean. They're the top of the food chain. Now, do sandbar sharks have predators? Yes, they do, because they get eaten by tiger sharks and whites. So, but their population has to be growing because they are a prohibited species to catch. So, I don't remember the number of the episode that I did, but I did a shark episode because there was a summer that I went out and tagged 53 sharks for Noah. And, they were sand tigers, duskies, browns, and, they're prohibited. They don't want you taking them out of the water, and they don't want you doing anything to them. They want you to catch them, and if it's a bycatch, let them go right away, And we did. We learned more and more as we caught them how majestic they were and how awesome. These things have been around since the dinosaurs. So it's really cool to see and hold one. They are, especially on the beach, because when they thrash their tail around, knocked Jet over, who's, a good 250 plus, knocked him down like it was, a little kid in a stroller. And, it was a big 8-foot shark. And they're very powerful. You go to grab their tail to drag them back into the water. It's like grabbing the top of your thigh. It's you can't even get your both hands around it. That's how wide it is. So the sharks are harassing the tuna bite and the striped bass bite for sure. And it's that time of the year. This is where they're here in the warmer waters. And they're here because of the food supply. And they're also here to give birth to their live young. And this is what they do. That's why they're here. So we got to deal with it. But the tuna bite is red hot. Everybody's out there catching them. We were waiting for a window this week. The wind really wasn't cooperating with us. So I don't think this week it's out. And next week I am so goddamn busy that I don't even know where to begin. It's going to be a crazy week. Starting this weekend. Starting Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, into Thursday. Friday I could finally come up for air and have a day to do whatever the hell I want. So it's been crazy in a good way, in a really good way. And talking to the guys here, guys are out fluke fishing. I don't do a ton, like this weekend, the charters that we have, we will be bottom fishing, and it's usually taking families with kids out. And Kory and I specialize in that this time of the year. We love it, and it's a great break for us, sitting out there on the chunk and targeting the striped bass, which we all love to do, and the blues. The blues and the bass, to me, are the most fun. But putting kids on fish and watching kids' reactions to catching fish is the best. Even last weekend, we had people from Westchester on the boat that these kids had never caught fish, and this was their first time to learn. So we taught them with a spinner, we taught them with a bait caster, and we showed them different techniques. And, man, let me tell you, you teach them, and when they listen and they absorb it and they do it and they catch fish, there's no better – there's nothing better than when you're watching that in front of you just evolve as they, throughout the day, they get better and better at it and more fun, and they listen to what you tell them to do, and they do it. So that's kind of cool. Then you have people that you tell them to do things, and they don't listen, and they do their own thing, and then they wonder why they're not catching as many fish, because you really got to listen to the captain and the crew, and they're going to help put you on fish, especially if you're, a guy like me that's going to be a greenhorn going on tuna boats. I'm going to have to listen. I got to listen to what people are doing. And, listen, I went to Florida. I caught tuna, caught sailfish, and we listened. Me and my nieces and nephews, it was very easy, and it was awesome. I thought for sure my nephew was going to drop that sailfish. I really did. He was doing everything wrong, and he did everything wrong and caught the fish, which made it even more awesome. And I got it all on video. It's a sick. It really is a sick video, and we're excited. We're going to get out there on the tuna. We are going to get to the South Shore, and just a lot of big things going on. Pretty big stuff, and it's awesome. And like I said last week, the construction's starting in the studio, and that kicks off end of August. So really the first week into September, and I'll still be doing all my episodes on the boat, and we're just dealing with the boat show. Everybody got the email, I'm sure, recently for the Ward Melville High School fishing show that's going to now shoot for 2 days. I think it's March 7th and 8th, Saturday and Sunday. So that's going to be a 2-day show, and that is the biggest show we have here on Long Island as far as I'm concerned. I think it's one of the best fishing shows that we have. Thank you, Bob Wilson, and the crew and the staff. You guys are awesome. And we will do everything on Bay Rats and Buoys to help promote that and get that out there. But if you didn't check your email and you're first hearing about it here, it's going to be a two-day event this year. And obviously it's going to incur a little more cost. They're still going to make it free for admission. So it's going to be an awesome show. We're looking forward to it. Very excited. And hopefully Bay Rats and Buoys will be back there. We know we're already locked in for the Javits show, for the New York Boat Show. Super excited about that. We're looking to do the show down south this year as well. So we are moving and shaking things up in a good way. So again, Bay Rats and Buoys' first year anniversary is going to be October 9th. I think that's the Thursday. That would be the 52nd episode. So that's when we will have 1 year in the books. And we are going to start a Bay Rats and Buoys fishing club. So we touched a lot of stuff right there. In what? In the first 12 minutes of the show. So episode 43. We got a lot going on here. And right now it's blowing out of the northeast. You got wind out of the north today. I like it when it's out of the north because then it's blowing to my back and I'm blocking the microphone. We haven't had any episodes where it really has been an issue, where the wind has hindered me being able to be down here and record. I didn't put up the umbrella to cover the GoPros from overheating today because the wind, it'll probably fly away. Even having the second mic stand there to hold the umbrella, I'm not risking it. Risking the biscuit. So we are going to run. We're picking a couple of days, and every month, so August, September, October, we're going to run a couple of days that we have an open boat for guys that want to come out as solos and come fishing with me and Kory. So that's exciting. That's new. That's happening now. And we've been talking to a whole bunch of guys that had reached out to us over the year, I'd say over this year and last year, where I have a list of the names of people that reached out regarding getting on an open boat. And we're going to start doing that this August. So that is happening in 2 weeks. That starts, and we'll run it August, September, and October. We'll run a couple of days during the week where we get guys out on an open boat for Sand City Charter. Now, something else that came up recently in a comment on YouTube, which was pretty cool that, I love the comments. I do. And it lets you know that even though you talk about something and you say something, a lot of people listen because people come back down to the dock here and mention something that was brought up on the podcast, like go to J&M Seafood to get all your seafood on Lockfield Road in East Northport. The best. Matt and his crew over there is the best. But it's nice when people come down here and now they're going to say to me, Matt from J&M Seafood is the best, and we agree. But somebody reached out with a comment saying that they couldn't find the video version of the podcast, or they were listening to the audio version and made a comment. And, I don't think I can make it any easier than just going to sandcitycharter.com. And a lot of people do. Thousands of people go there. The site has an amazing audience and attendance monthly. And obviously it's because of the podcast and the social media. And we advertise saying go to sandcitycharter.com. So a lot of people do. That is the easiest and best place for you to find any of the stuff that we have here as far as Bay Rats and Buoys, Sand City Fishing Charters. We'll put links there. We'll run some stuff. We'll put some stuff up there for the open boat, which is going to be very new. because we're just talking about it now. We haven't even set a date yet, so you'll see that on the homepage. And you can just go to the website, sandcitycharter.com. You could just Google Bay Rats and Buoys. You could Google Sand City Charter. You can Google Captain Gaige. You can Google any of that, and you're going to find what you're looking for. Okay, but if you go to sandcitycharter.com, up in the top right corner, there's a word podcast. Click on podcast. That will take you to the podcast page. And the first thing you're going to see on the top of the page is a YouTube video right there. All you got to do is click play. And even on the homepage of sandcitycharter.com, if you didn't click on anything and you just scroll down past the opening video that plays in the header, that video, that link right there says this week's podcast every Thursday, 6 o'clock. And you guys know I try to stick to that schedule, which is why it's Thursday now and I'm getting this done. It's Thursday today, guys. I tried to get it done yesterday. It was a cloudy, crappy day. I figured, you know what? I got so much stuff to do. Moving into this busy Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, I was like, I got to get some stuff done. So I didn't come down yesterday to get the podcast done, which put me back as far as even doing my report for the Fisherman Magazine. So I kind of slacked on that the last 2 weeks. But again, because it's August and it's busy and things are happening and, so not for any bad reasons. All good. All good stuff. And so somebody commented that they couldn't find the video version. So that was how you do it. Go to sandcitycharter.com, check out the video version. You can share it with your friends. Let them know. We're going to start sitting down now. I have some new stuff happening that I can talk about in 44 and 45, episode 44 and 45. Some things that I made changes that making it better for me and easier for me to do some stuff, and as far as Bay Rats and Buoys is concerned. But people even asked us to do a second tournament. Can you believe it? And, that alone is a pat on the back. And I got to say that they enjoyed the first one so much that they were like, wow, do a second one. And, we considered it. We really did, to bang one out in the fall. And there were a few things that were thrown at the wall and to see if something sticks. But we wanted to stick to the one tournament, make it successful, and then plan the second one, and same thing, make it bigger and better. So we don't want to dilute it by doing more tournaments. We're just going to make the one that we are focused on bigger and better every year. And that's pretty much been the recipe. The first one, we kept it simple. And I think we pulled it off because we kept it simple. We didn't overcomplicate things, and we had an amazing sponsors that jumped on board that I continually thank in all our videos, and you have to. They were a big part of it. But tournament one, first annual's in the books. It's past us, way past us, and it's really only a month and a half ago. But our relationships from the boat show and with people moving into the fall and even into the wintertime, the stuff that we're working on. And here we go. I had to keep the phone handy today. I had no choice because a call could come in and I may have to interrupt the podcast. That is why the ringer is on. And it's for good reason. It's because it's busy right now. It is. There's a lot happening. But let's get to the fishing. How are you guys catching your bass these days? All right. So the guys are out there getting them ripped in half by brown sharks, a.k.a. sandbars. We discussed that already. And me, we had our charter last week bottom fishing, and the first fish that they caught was a weak fish and a porgy. These kids put down bait, and boom. I mean, before they even hit the bottom, I think they were on. Or maybe they hit the bottom and boom. I think they hit these fish in the head. That's how fast the hookup was. It was so cool to see. And they caught every species except for a striped bass and a black sea bass. I mean, they caught croaker, bluefish, you name it, they caught it. But point being is catching a lot of spot to the point where I reel some of them up, and I'm like, wow, this thing looks like it's big. It looks like a porgy. It's huge. And so there's some big spot being caught here, and there is nothing better for live bait for the striped bass. I mean, even Frank here at the dock, and everybody in my marina, we all know Frank. We love Frank. He's like an icon here. with the cleanest Grady white and the nicest Grady white probably. Even he said, his comment recently was like, the switching to the spot, it's just so much cleaner and easier. You have a few different ways you could hook them through the nose. You could hook them through the behind the dorsal fin. There's so many things you could do to hook them. And they stay on the line so easy. And, what's funny is we had a charter that caught keeper striped bass. And here he was. He took the croaker. They got him on a live croaker, and he was a 28 or a 29-inch. And later on, when coming back to the dock, Kory filleted the fish for them. There was no croaker in there, so it's funny. It's like they ate this thing or they took it, so they don't always eat it, especially when you hook them. So we like putting it on a circle hook with 4 to 6 feet a leader. I usually do a little less than 6 feet because we don't need that much. We like when we get to the top and they can net it and the weight and the swivel are not in the way. And we'll put the weight up there at the top, where you have a swivel at the top, and keep it super simple. It's really such a simple rig. And we'll drift them like that, so we're not putting fish finder rigs on and dropping them to the bottom. And, we're trying to get it. And the minute you get them down into the fish in the water column there, you see them on the sonar, you drop it down. I mean, they get crushed. They get crushed instantly. It really is. You don't have to wait. There's no waiting when you're using spot. But my point is, Frank made comments about the spot being so much cleaner to use than cutting up bunker and, and chunking and doing what we were all doing with bunker, because not everybody used live bunker, But I do feel like the spot is like a better size. Like it's more like crack for the striped bass. It's more like a small porgy. And, in Montauk, that's always been the thing, to use scup for bait for striped bass. That's no secret, And, even me and Pete Tarnowski back in the day, we were fishing on Freedom Boat Club boats. We were reeling in porgies, and striped bass were coming in after them. And I think we caught some of those moments on GoPros, which were pretty cool, And I love that we all always have GoPros going. And I'll say the white GoPro, it gets dirty fast, so it looks like it's a hand, being held, and it gets dirtier than the black ones. You don't really see the dirt on it. The white one starts to have the brown button and the brown corners. So I don't know how much we love the white. And to solve any of the overheating problems, you don't use the battery. You put in a power source, and that'll solve, a lot of your overheating issues. The overheating is the batteries get hot in the summertime in these things. And speaking of overheating, I've had my phone overheat, a couple of times on the boat. And it is an iPhone. You leave this out in the sun just like that, and it's going to show you that it shut down because it overheated. And what I like to do is take a Ziploc bag, and we have boxes of Ziploc bags on the boat because we cut up fillets for people that want to take the fish with them that they caught. And we take the phone and we put it in a Ziploc bag, and I throw it in my Yeti cooler. And by throwing it into the Yeti cooler, it cools down real fast, and it turns the phone back on real fast. I mean, I don't want to say instantly, but give it a minute or two in there and your phone will turn back on. So if it overheats on the boat, that's definitely the best option for you, is stick it in a Ziploc bag and put it on the ice in the cooler and let it sit in there for a little bit. All right? And we always have a cooler on board. Not only do I have my private Captain's Yeti, which we upgraded and got a new one this year because the zipper finally tore off and it didn't. It really, I mean, it can be fixed. It easily can be fixed. It's not broken. It's just where the handle goes. There's no more piece to connect anything. I even had a keychain ring going through there with a bottle opener on there, which I don't use a bottle opener for anything because, I drink Diet Cokes. In fact, got one right here. It's ready to go. If I start choking to death, I'm going to sip my Diet Coke or a water. Now, my next favorite thing. Recently, I mean, these fit right in your bucket that you already have on your boat, so you can have, and we have multiple buckets. Sometimes they're stacked. We like to leave a few of them on the dock, and, you got to have a bucket on a boat. It's important. You never know when you're going to have to bail water out and use a bucket. But anyway, hopefully that's not the case. And we'll talk about bailing water and all that fun stuff with some more good news that's coming along the line here at Bay Rats and Buoys. Some big stuff happening that we'll talk about. But my favorite new item is the 2.5-gallon bucket. This thing is epic. It's awesome. Of course, you got we put stickers on everything, on absolutely everything, and you got Kory's Customs. We always got the Bay Rats and Buoys, and then we got the first annual Striped Bass Invitational, and soon to have hats and shirts for the podcast. And for anybody that was in the tournament, we tried to get out as many shirts as we could. I think we did a pretty good job with that. But we will have more. And that is thanks to Teddy and George, because without them, we would have been high and dry. It would have been a lot tougher. It wouldn't have been the brand that we wanted shirt-wise. That shirt is so comfortable. I could wear it all day, every day, and I love it. But I picked that brand for a reason. So anybody that has one knows exactly what I'm talking about. But here's my newest and latest and favorite addition on the boat. Fits right in a bucket, so I'm going to go drop it in a bucket, and you don't see it anymore. And I threw it into a bucket. So that's 2 points there. Wasn't far enough for a three-pointer, but. So I think I touched base on a lot of the topics that I wanted to for episode number 43. We did bring up the Hamptons Shootout. That's going down this weekend. I think Sundays is the captain's meeting. And then Monday through Friday, you have your 5-day window to get out for one overnight or 2 19-hour trips. So you can head over to hamptonsshootout.com. And some of the new things that are going on in my world are going to allow me to do some bigger and better things with other guests for Bay Rats and Buoys. And one of them is going to be the Hamptons with Sash at Whale's Tail. And they are building up a phenomenal reputation out there on the East End. And we're going to tie you into that with this podcast. And can't wait for that. That's happening. Sitting out in Jacob's Oyster Farm. That's going to be epic. I'm sure there's not too many people podcasting live out in oyster farms. Or on their boat, for that matter. So, I love that this started 43 weeks ago and has stayed consistently every week. And we do try to get it up by Thursday. And sometimes it gets up on Friday or Saturday. I think that's the latest it's been, is where it got up on, I put it up on a Saturday, for sure. And I will have it on the site tonight by 6 o'clock Thursday. And that's because it's 11:40 now. It's early. And we're 26 minutes. And so we're going to bring episode 43 to a close. But you got the WIC tournament coming up this month. All right. So we plan on doing some serious blue fishing. We have not caught any gator monsters in the area here. And I can't say that we have targeted them, but we've caught bluefish. We've caught the blues. There is a ridiculous amount of bait taking people out on the bottom fishing trips. The rods are bending. I mean, Kory's beside himself taking fish off the hooks. I mean, it's awesome. It really is. And it's great taking the kids out and seeing that this time of the year. It's great when you see the college kids catching some striped bass when they never have caught a bass before. And, I almost want to say we specialize in people that have never caught a bass come on the boat and they catch a bass. And it's happened over a dozen times just this year alone. But it seem like every season we get new clients that come out and get on some bass that have never caught bass before. And we like doing it in different methods, using different techniques, okay? And, everybody knows we use the flutter spoon. We love the flutter spoon. Live lining is obviously our favorite thing to do. In fact, we will show you something that we built and new stuff towards the end of the season that maybe we can help you build for yourself and make it easier for you to do some of the things that we're telling you about, like live lining, all right? Whether it be how to throw the cast net, how we're catching the croakers, where we're catching them, and what we use to catch them, because you can catch the bait, guys. Just like you see them do when they get out tuna fishing in there. They got a sabiki rig down and they're catching mackerel to put live bait in the well there so that they're hooking up with tuna and using live bait. I saw recently somebody said, well, how many people have live mackerel on their boat? I'm going to say there's a lot because a lot of people know how to get out and get on the bait. Real fishermen, and just because you don't go and catch bait doesn't make you not a real fisherman. But I'm saying real anglers and people that are really into this love catching their own bait. They want to catch their own bait. They don't use frozen. They don't use anything that they're buying that's dead that they're chunking with. They're going to go out and catch it and use that bait for that trip. And at different areas in the United States, it's so cool and it's so different how it's done than it is here on Long Island. And here on Long Island, we're used to pulling up to the shops, buying what you need, getting out there, catching your bait, whether you're using hooks, whether you're throwing cast nets, whether you're pulling the nets along the beaches. And in other parts of the United States, there are boats that will pull up to you and give you the amount of live bait that you need for your trip. It's like, that's a business. We don't have stuff like that here. We have clammers. All right, we got lots of clammers. You got the guys that go and catch the bunker. There are guys that sell live bunker here on Long Island. There are. I know they are west of us. Speaking of west, I almost and never do, but I always got to mention Manny from the west. You guys know Manny. He will be out with us again, and that was a great trip with Manny. We got out into the bay, and that day the blues were blowing up and going crazy, so we thought they made their arrival and they were staying. But, man, after that, Manny, we didn't see a lot of blues after that. But that morning we got out there, that was pure insanity. And, again, it only lasted, you're in it. Just like the Rain Blitz of 2025. You guys know that video. I've posted it a few times. The Rain Blitz of 2025 was insane. We got to meet the guys from Mount Sinai that were out there with us. They were the only ones in on that action with us that day. And so at least there was a witness. You got to have a witness, but when you have video footage, obviously you have proof. So I believe none of what I hear and half of what I see, which is why there are 2 GoPros on my boat right now. So, and usually more. We even have some extended poles here that we use for putting GoPros down into the water to try to get other views of what's going on to capture the action. And as we've been evolving with what we're trying to produce moving into 2026, which we will talk about come the winter months, we've been using and doing different techniques as far as the filming is concerned on the boat for footage that we're going to use moving into 2026. Very excited about that. So we've been working on a lot of things and behind the scenes that we haven't really been able to talk about, and we won't be able to talk about them until they come to fruition because, again, you guys know how I am. I don't like to talk about stuff unless it's happening and it's real and it's going down because things change. You know how life is. You get homed in on something and all of a sudden that changes and you don't do that, but you told everybody about it. So you got to – I like actions louder than words. You know what I mean? I've always been an action louder than words type of person. So, especially when I came to starting Sand City Charter, and it evolved before I even started it. Like I actually planned it out years before it happened. And I'm talking the name, the buying the URL, all that stuff was done back when I was working at Freedom Boat Club. Okay, so sometimes it takes time to do things and launch it, and you want to do something, you want to do it right. You don't want to do it and fail. You're going to give it the college try. You sure as hell don't want to fail at it. So maybe we'll do an episode on how that all started and how that came to fruition. One of the stories I talked about recently with Rob over here with his Beautiful Pursuit, he got back from Montauk. They went out looking for the tuna and wound up not getting any. And they were getting harassed by brown sharks. And so that was, and that's been with a lot of people. It wasn't just them. So it's, this is what happens. But we were talking about his boat, and obviously Eric on the Why Not. You guys know I love the Why Not, and I love Eric. I was discussing with Rob how I met Eric through the Freedom Boat Club. And here's a guy that joined the Freedom Boat Club, stepped into, I think it was a 34-foot regulator, and then moved from the 34 to a 38 outrage. And now goes down the harbor in his beautiful outrage that we love. And he had a funny story when he went out to Montauk. He was like, dude, I get out there with this beautiful boat of mine, and it's a tender to everybody's boat. And, it's just the reality of Montauk and what happens out there on the East End. And in a lot of the big marinas for the big Marlin tournaments, everybody's got a Viking. It's, and a Bayless, and it's another world. And I love it. I am definitely getting involved. 100%. Now, the tuna bite's red hot. Everybody on the South Shore is out there getting in on the tuna bite. Tom Trueheart, who was the first fish caught in our June tournament. I mean, he is an absolute beast heading out on his single screw. Now, somebody posted a picture of the smallest boat that was outshore. It was, way offshore. And they obviously had the conditions to do it. But they were out there in a single screw. And I know Tom goes out there. He is so hardcore. And that is what I love about him. And I love seeing the pictures of these guys with single-screw engines getting out there on the tuna. And it's motivating, it's inspiring, and we are going to get in on the inshore bite for the South Shore. We are. And I know July is the best month. That was after speaking closely with Adam over at the Tuna Cartel. I mean, he's always dialed in, but he'll tell you that, July is the best month for tuna. And now that we're trickling into August, it's not going to slow down any. It's on fire. It really is. We're hoping we get the same action in the fall come the striped bass, and they're still here. So it's not like we lost the striped bass bite. And, Montauk there, Block Island, so many great spots to go fish. Rob was telling me how he had to shoot across to Connecticut to head out, to Montauk just based on this wind direction, So it's even on a big pursuit, he's still, it doesn't matter. We talked about it with Eric on the 38 outrage. He called me up and he was like, dude, it's like, what do I do? I could die out here today. He was a 38-foot boat, and you get into the wrong conditions, and you're just a boat out there, so it's always, it also happened recently with somebody in the area whose kids were offshore fishing. They were supposed to be back. Let's just use a time of 6 o'clock. They were going to be back, their return time. And it was now 9 o'clock, and they weren't back. And now, a concerned parent is going to be looking for, communication and reaching out to captains that can now get on radios and Starlink and, using every all the means available to get in touch with a boat that, could be out offshore, who's in the area near that boat, because the communications out there are, it's a lot of boats are talking to one another. All right, moving around out there, doing it, and the way that they're fishing, they're all communicating to one another on the VHF radio. It's real important when you get out there and you're 100 miles offshore, and you're communicating to somebody else that they're over here, you got them over there, they do communicate like that. So it was nice to see that people were trying to reach out to these guys. They did make it back safe. It's always the case where, speaking of Scott, Starlink is huge. And being able to pay for that service and have that out there, I mean, is a tremendous technology. It really puts the sat phones, outdated and whatnot. And there's so much new technology that these guys use going offshore for fishing that I've learned from Scott. And like I said, I'm a sponge. I listen. I love learning. And I love learning from people that know what they're doing, because that's the best way to learn. And, it was nice to hear that they got back safe. But that 3-hour window probably had the parents, in a little bit of a panic when you don't hear from, when you're supposed to make a time back, and you don't make that time back. Now, you don't make that time back because the bite turned on and you got a window. that happens. Happens to all of us, especially out there fishing for striped bass. You get out there. Chris just went out. He got out there at high tide, and he got nothing. He went out. He had spot. He got out there. He had live bait, and he couldn't catch a bass. He couldn't even find the bass. And we talk about that during the tide cycles. Where are they? Where'd they go? And that mid-tide, whether it be the mid-ebb tide or the mid-flood tide, knowing where to go find them on the reef and in certain areas makes it a lot easier. And that water moving, I think the bite is a lot better. Always has been. And he got out there, it was really slack. I thought for sure at that slack current at the top of the tide, at the top of the flood, that he would have seen more topwater action like we normally do. And whether it had been the blues or it was the bass, he didn't see any of that. So that was just recently. And that's what makes fishing every day different. You go out there today, they're just blowing up. Early morning, they're blowing up. 9 o'clock in the morning, you don't see anything out there. So that's why you got to get out there. And I got to say to Justin and Andrew, the boat. So Andrew, you didn't have your hat on. Every picture I see you, every time I see you have a hat on. Justin never has a hat on. So I could tell right away by the hair, that's Justin. I could see it from a mile away. I'm like, oh, that's Justin. And Andrew was on his new whaler that they finally got in the water. They did so much work to it. It's awesome. It's great to see, and it's great to see that younger generation so dialed in. These kids, I'm telling you, I shit you not, they're out there at 4 a.m. before they go to high school. Before they go to school, these kids are out there in the sound fishing and, Boston Whaler center consoles, crushing it, dialed in. In fact, Andrew was the one that reeled in the winning fish for our Bay Rats and Buoys first annual Striped Bass Invitational. And we love that. We really do. And I think what's even better is Eric was the last one to sign up at the captain's meeting. And then Andrew on his boat reeled in the largest bass of the day, which was just epic. So, love seeing you guys out there. And we have an awesome... And so now, this time of the year, here's what happens. All these kids go back to college. So John was just down here saying, hey, keep an eye on my boat. I got to run to Penn State and Boston. He's got to bounce around from college to college. He's got to figure out how he's got to do it. But right now, this time of the year, any of you kids that are looking for jobs or looking to work on the fuel dock over here at Wyncote, which is the greatest fuel dock in our area. I love getting my gas there. I always have. I haven't gone anywhere else because Rich runs a great show over there. And it's where I get my ice, it's where I get my gas. And Declan, Will, Shannon, Cameron, Rich, the whole crew over there, they are absolutely awesome at what they do. And I highly recommend them if you want to go over and get some gas. I love it that I could look over there and see nobody's there, untie my boat, be over there in 15 seconds. So that's like cheating for me. So I've never really waited for gas because I don't have to leave. I see lines here that are unbelievable on the weekends, and I get it. You're leaving your marina, you're coming out, you got to pass the fuel dock. You got to get gas. Got to do it. So sometimes you got to wait. But my point is that any of you kids out there that are looking for jobs, a lot of college kids are leaving some of these jobs right now, so you might be able to step in, get some hours. So if you want to go see Rich over at Wyncote, I know they are going to be hiring because the college kids do leave in the next week or two. So, we extended episode 43, and I tried to keep it at 43 minutes today. I'm very close. So, get out there, catch some fish. You want to get on the boat, we're going to run an open boat. Hit us up. Visit sandcitycharter.com. You can send me a message. You can text me. You can call me. You can do whatever you got to do. Email me. Everything is on the site. It is very easy to use and to communicate with me. If you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, there is also a video version every week. It's available at sandcitycharter.com. And just making sure it wasn't that call. And It's at sandcitycharter.com, and wherever you listen to your podcast, if you're listening to it on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to it, there's a video version you can go get. And all you got to do is click on it and watch the video. You can share it with your buddies. Piece of cake. Here I am in person on the boat. Episode number 43 in the books. Super excited, guys. A lot of great stuff moving forward. I can't wait to announce it all. We're excited to be at the Ward Melville 2-day fishing show this year. So kudos to Bob Wilson and the crew over there and all the kids, because you guys run a great show. So I'm excited that that's growing. We're looking forward to the boat show at the Javits Center. And in the meantime, while we plan all that, get out there and catch some tuna. Get out there and catch some bass. We got the WIC tournament creeping up on us. We will talk about the bluefish and try to keep you dialed in and maybe help you out a little bit so you can get on that leaderboard this year. So stay tuned. We'll tell you what's working. And wishing everybody bent rods, tight lines, and I'll see you out on the water. Captain Gaige signing off. Over and out.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. Be sure to visit sandcitycharter.com and follow Captain Gaige on all our social media channels.